Hi and welcome to Angling For You. Today you join me on the fantastic Hoskers pond at Candy Corner Fisheries, and I've not fished this pond before and it's stuffed full of little carp, and we're just into the first one of the day, and the method we're catching these feisty little beasts on is meat and pellets. So we're using a blended pellet, a blended meat and a soaked micro, and then a cube of spam on the hook. And once we get this in, we'll go a little bit through the bait, a little bit down the rig, and we'll see how we're catching them. Now I've got a bit stronger elastic than I normally would on. It's sort of 12 to 14 hollow. There's lily pads obviously I'm fishing next to, and we all know how that goes. So we want to make sure that we try and land these fish. And to do that, making sure that we're not over geared. You know, they're not double figure fish, but they're carp at the end of the day, and they pull back, and if they've got a chance of getting you in that lily pads, then they'll definitely do it. Definitely putting up a good account of himself, this fish. Definitely putting a good account, and it doesn't surprise me. Candy Corner Fisheries, every fish you hook seems to pull your arm off, and this one's no different. So lovely rig this. I tied this last night, and it's a little bit about the float choice, which I'll go into of why I like it. And hopefully we've got some nice space here, so we might be able to get some good shots. And here he is, beautiful coloured little carp. First one of the day, so about £3 mark, I reckon. Let's get him unhooked. Looks perfectly in the corner of the mouth. An absolutely pristine, fin perfect this one is. And we'll be quick with him because it is quite warm out of him. Yeah, but look at that. What a stunning little fish. Colours on his tail are fantastic. Let's get him back in and we'll get talking through this rig. So, like I said, you join me at Candy Corner, and it is absolutely baking today. It really is baking. Right, so we'll just get this rig up and have a little talk through. So like I was saying, we're fishing with meat, and it's a blended concoction of meat, and I'll lift that up for you in a minute. But what I've got, after I've just done for this segment, I've got a little bit of me preparing it yesterday at home, and that obviously give you an indication. But briefly, you've got to make sure that you soak your meat with hot water, gets all that fat off it, and then that allows your meat to sink. And I've got it stored in here with water as well, which we'll go into. Right, so the rig, I've got a really stable float. When you fish meat, it wafts up a bit, so I've got a metal sort of stem to the float, and it gives it a lot of stability in the water. And the shotting pattern that I use is also for keeping that line nice and tight, and to minimise those liners. So I've got strung out number 8s, 3 number 8s, and then I've got a little dropper around 2 inches from the hook, and that just allows me to get that rig perfectly arced down to the bottom, and I've got that strong stem of a float which is going to keep the float stable. I need to put a number 9 on here just to bring that float down a little bit more, and it really is a stable, deadly rig. Now the line I'm using is 018 Gen Pro line, straight through to a little hook link of 017, and that hook link's probably around the 7 to 8 inch length, and I've got a 14's KKMB on, and that's just going to nick through the corner of the meat. Now you'll see in the video that I'm going to show you in a second that I use 2 types of meat, and the reason is that the spam is a bit more denser of a meat, and you can hook it. It's a lot easier to stay on the hook, and the sort of chopped ham and pork shreds really nicely, and that forms that feed bait. But it is quite soft on the hook, so we don't really want that on the hook, because you know, any movement and it's off. So join me in the garden we'll go through this and how you prepare it, and then we'll come back. Right guys, I'm going to show you how I prep my bait. Now what you need for the feed is pork and ham, chopped up pork and ham. You can go with your diced luncheon meats and things like that, but I tend to like the pressed stuff because it breaks down for feed, but I don't like it on the hook. I use Spam for that, but when we're on the peg we'll show you that. So what I've done is I've already pushed 2 tins through. I'm just going to show you how we do it now. You can get a meat cutter and put them into small dice and things like that if that's what you really want to do. This is just showing you something that most people have, a riddle for ground bait, and it's really inexpensive. Obviously meat cutters aren't cheap, and they're a bit of a ball ache to clean as well, although they are very accurate, so I'm not knocking them. But what you want to do is tip them out. This is just a standard riddle with a tub underneath it, and what we want to do is just effectively just keep moving it around the riddle, and it's grating this meat into the bowl below. And we'll go a little bit into, once we've done this, what it looks like for firstly, and why we're doing it, and a little bit more about the effect it has when we fish with it. So it's a little bit sticky and a bit grim. I must say though, when you're fishing meat, if you get it on your clothes or your overalls or whatever, or your pole and stuff, it's a good idea to make sure you, after your session, you wash it down, and same with your towel or whatever, because with the fats that's in these meats, it degrades things. So like it'll take off the lacquer on your poles. It knackers up your trousers and stains them with the fat. Just gets everywhere, and that's why I'm using it on this riddle, because it's quite easy to clean. Once I've done it, just jet wash it off, and I tend to do it at the home. You can do this on a bank if you want to do it on a bank, but I just do this while I'm at home and just show you guys, and it's all ready and prepped. So I'm going to turn it over, and we want all this meat. So this can be added a little bit of water to this, and we can use this as meat paste, but we're not going to do that. We're going to just fish it as a feed bait, and I'll go through that once I've got this. Just put that over here for a second. Right, so as you can see, you've got this pretty grim looking concoction, and once it's mixed with water, it sort of moves into smaller particles. Now I want to fish that bait, that standout bait, and that's going to be a sort of a 4 to 6 mil cube of luncheon meat. Now the fish where we're fishing it, sort of around up to 5 pound, so that's perfect size meat, in coupled with a nice size 14 hook that we're going to fish that day. Now once we've got this sort of grated meat, you can call it, once we've washed it off, we're going to then mix it with pellets on the bank, soaked pellets on the bank, and that's going to be our feed bait that's going to go alongside obviously the diced, which we're going to put on the hook. So I'm just going to show you the next stage of it. I'm just going to grab some water and we'll get into that. Right guys, so as I said before, we've got the grated meat, and we've just got some kettle water, nice and hot. We want to just pour that over the meat until it covers all that meat. And what we can see from looking at there straight away is you see the cloudiness that's on top. That's all the fat that's on the meat, and we don't need any of that. That makes your meats float, and obviously we don't want the meat to float, we want it to sink. So we're going to pour that now straight through the strainer, and just shake that about, and that meat there now, I'm going to leave that to cool down, and that meat will be absolutely perfect to fish with the pellets tomorrow, and we'll hopefully have plenty of fish. So join me on the bank and see how we get on. Right guys, so I apologise for the glasses today, but it is blinding, so it is a necessity, I'm afraid. And the cubes of meat, you can use a meat cuber, or I like to cut it up by hand. It gives me a variety of different sizes and allows me to play with it, but I always carry a knife with me just in case I want to trim anything. So once the meat is hooked, I go with some micro pellets in the cad pot, about half full. And if they're having it, this needs to be sort of every cast realistically, unless you have an instant bite and you want to just come straight back in and put some bait on and you miss the bite, then that's fair enough. So I know I've got back to you a little bit, but we'll change the camera angle around in a little bit and get some shots of from the other way around. But we've got around close to 2 foot, just under I would say, of depth, which is a nice depth to be at, not too deep, but also the fish like to be sort of at these depths. It is warm today, so hopefully we'll have some shallow as well. And we're just right at the side of those lily pads. And it's important to say actually I've got 2 types of meat here in regards to flavours. I've got this just standard plain meat, and I've got some that are spiced with a little bit of curry powder, and I was very slow on that one. That one took it straight away, and I was very slow on the uptake. In fact, what I might do is just hook a little bit of that curried meat on, see if there's any interest in that. And all I've done with that one is dry curry powder and just prepped it the same way, and then dropped it in and give it a jiggle about and left it overnight in the fridge. Now the thing with that, sometimes the flavour stuff can do the business, and it also sort of toughens the outside of the meat when you put any sort of like seasoning and stuff on it. We'll see how we go. We're into another fish on the curried meat this time. He's going hard for those lily pads, so just sink that tip of that pole. And obviously there's more than enough strength in these margin poles to bully them out of there, but they don't seem as big a fish as last time, but still a nice little carp, and that's what we're expecting to catch today. And like I said, this one was on a piece of curried meat, so obviously doing the business as well. It's like one of those nice silvery coloured commons, that one. The only problem with my peg is I've got a little bit of a rush in front of it, so I've just got to be careful when netting. I've got to try and net them a little bit further out, but the response, it's not a massive top kit, which I prefer, but it can also make it a little bit of a fiddle if you've got anything in front of you like we have today. So much energy, these fish. Really looks after them at Candy Corner. Lots of oxygen in the water. Really hard fighting, and you know, majority of the time if I'm fishing anywhere else on here, I'm fishing, you know, my other rig is that was terrible netting. My other rig's sort of really light, number 8 to 10, and that just gives you a great fight. And to be honest, this 12's you know, it stretches absolutely loads really for what I need. This little one's not giving up with that fight, that's for sure. He's not happy. He's definitely pulling back. Come on, lad. And the thing is, we're not match fishing here. We're pleasure angling, and you know, yeah, these meat obviously works well when you're fishing anywhere else on a match, but I'm not trying to rag these fish in. I want to enjoy my fishing. It's a nice silvery style comment. Oh, stay. He's holding his fin up for you. What a beautiful fish. Absolutely perfect. Let's get him back. What we'll do now is we'll have a little look at the angles and see if we can get a little bit of a closer in angle and a little bit of a different angle to try and see just how we're hooking these fish. Right guys, so the key is here when you're fishing meat is to not put too much in. Don't absolutely fill your peg in with tons and tons and tons of it, because what's going to happen is you're going to start foul looking fish. Just keep feeding, you know, maybe put 1 cad pot in to start with or something like that, just to start the basis of getting them there. And I'm probably putting 2/3 pellet to 1/3 meat in my kinder pot at the top to feed. I don't want to feed any more than that. If you, like I said, if you keep doing it, what'll happen is you'll get foul lookers, and nobody needs a foul looker. And what you want them to do is home in on that bait that you're putting in, and obviously take your hook bait along with the free offerings. And when you fish like that, you tend to get a lot better strike rate, a lot better amount of fish out, and a lot less foul lookers. And yeah, I could probably put 1 more shot on the float, to be honest, but it varies in depth there, and sometimes the meat just sits up on the roots. You can see there's a fish swirling behind, so there's still fish there. There's a little few dinks, and we're into a fish again. And it's proving absolutely devastating as this meat today, and I thought it would. It is one of my favourite sort of hot weather baits, is meat. And like I said, when you've obviously seen how I've prepared it, you know, you can run it through a meat cutter and feed dice if you want to, but for this certain method that I do, it just creates this little sort of meaty fluffy haze along with the pellets in the water, and it brings those fish in, and it doesn't fill them up too much on it. You've got obviously your hook bait for that, and they just can't resist it. They just cannot resist it. And I've caught on the flavoured meat and the normal meat. They prefer today. They're preferring the standard meat. But sometimes when bites get harder, that little bit of spice can bring the fish back on. Obviously, once we finish this video, we're going to continue to fish it, but we will, I'm sure, catch many more on it today. This one's going wild. And it's not foul looked. I've seen it flash up, it's lip hooked, but it is going for it down this this marginal edge. Absolutely going for it. Just going to sink the tip, and I might put a bit of pole on actually, because it's trying to get in to the reeds, and I can't put any more reach on it because I've got small little common. And it's always good to have your sections like that. Like I said, I always say to hand, that situation is trying to get underneath there. Yeah, I could stand up, but I still haven't got a lot more reach than what I've got, you know, short arms and all that. But it's always good to have just that little bit of section ready to go, and just so I could put that angle on him to move him away from the reeds. I think he's a little bit better stamped, this one. He's not stupid size, but these commons do go well. They do go well, these commons. Had a few of them today, and yeah, really do go well. And obviously I could sit here and catch over and over and over, but it always makes sense when having the camera to try and get a few different methods going, and I'm going to try and get some other things going. Lovely lip hooked, like I said it was. Definitely not foul hooked, and you can usually tell if they're foul hooked when your elastic, when you're playing them, especially for like in the tail or stuff, it gets sort of like a zigzag effect. This one is definitely lip hooked and is definitely pulling back, and this is why we're using that 14s hook instead of a 16s or an 18s. You want a strong, those KKMBs are strong hooks, and a 14s just about the right side. We don't want a 12 or anything like that. Not really for meat, unless you're fishing for bigger ones. Obviously we're only going for smaller fish. And it's just under his feet, and he's in the net. And he is definitely a bigger stamp fish. Oh, hook just pulled straight out of his mouth. So what we'll do is we'll turn around and get him shown to the camera. He's not an absolute monster, because he has taken a lot of the bigger fish out to put in the big pond, but certainly the biggest one we've had today, and an absolute warrior like the other ones. And meat and pellet, these are the kind of fish that you can have, and you know, absolute fantastic condition fish, hard fighting. And let's get him back and we'll sign this video off. But beautiful fish, that one. Lovely markings on him. Get him straight back, obviously really hot weather. So guys, fantastic session on the meat. I know I'm going to continue to catch really well. It's absolutely devastating method to fish with, and you know, hopefully the hints about the bait and how we're preparing it and how we go about it in the rigs will aid you in getting more bites rather than foul hookers, and the way we feed can obviously determine if we're picking those fish off the bottom or we're keeping them on the bottom where you want to be catching them with the meat. So thank you for watching as always. Join us on the Facebook group and on a Friday nights and 7 o'clock, and then we can interact, engage, we can talk about what people are catching and what they're catching. We encourage live feeds and your own pictures and videos on the groups and on the Instagram. And talking about Instagram, join us on angling_for you at 8 o'clock on Friday nights for the live feed on there. Get yourself down to Candy Corner. Obviously you've seen me on the AJ's pond catching absolute whales, and in this pond as well there's still decent size. You've just seen that one in around £6, and there's absolutely stuffed full of fish and ready for you to come and catch. So pick up that phone, give Jamie a ring, or get them through Facebook and get yourself down and get yourself a peg booked. So thank you for watching as always. Like, share, subscribe, and join us on the next one. Tight lines.